In this quick video, I'm going to showcase just how easy it is to create different MDF door designs in Mozaik software. Let's get started by clicking to add a new door. Let's call this one Example Door. On the top left of the screen here, I can enter the side profile size. So let's create this as 50mm borders. On the left-hand side there under panel recess, I can determine the depth of the pocket that I would like to recess out. I'm going to set that up as 6mm. Next, I'm going to click in the middle of the door. In this area here, I'm going to change the panel type to pocket. So far what I've created, if I click the 3D button, is a recessed pocket standard shaker door. You can select the tooling that you would like to use for this shaker door in the settings under routed door tools. So I'm using a square 22.5 degree tool to square out that corner and another tool to clean up after my pocketing tool. All of this can be configured in your CNC tooling area. Let's talk about how you can customize this. Let's start by looking at setting the top rail to a higher margin. I'm going to change that to 100. I'm then going to right click on the top rail, select a new shape, and change the shape to one of these different choices. So let's start with an arch. Down the bottom here I can determine the height of my arch. Let's set that to 50mm and press OK. So just like that, I've now created a arched profiled shaker door. Let's try changing that rail to something different. Let's have a look at Cathedral. Again, I can determine the overall size of how far I want to come in before my profile starts, and then the overall height of the profile. That's going to control the overall parametric shape that I'm supplied with. I can change my overall door size to see how this would look in various different door lengths and heights. Let's try changing the shape to Colonial. Again, I'm presented with a simple dialog that has an easy selection of sizes to enter. Another choice there is Provincial. This one's the ability to specify an arc size in the top corners. So as you can see here, that's going to give me a reverse radius in the corner to create that provincial style door. This doesn't just have to be on the top rail, I can also do the same thing on the bottom rail. So very quickly and easily, I can create different parametric shapes. Let's take a look at arched left. Again, I've got the various controls. Create a different profile door. You might save this into your library as an arched left version, and also reverse that and save it into your library as an arched right version. Or perhaps you're going to use the combination of two together to create a different style. Let's go back now and change the shape back to default. And we'll reset our margins. Now let's take a look at splitting the door. That can be done as easily as pressing the horizontal split button. And then in the middle rail here, determining our rail size. So if I'd like to have a double height rail, I can simply change the height. Otherwise, if I'd like to keep that consistent, I can keep it at the standard size. Let's consider this to be a pantry door. Perhaps you'd like the bottom rail height to be fixed. That way it can match your base height doors on the adjacent cabinets. You can continue to split the top section, so I could still split that and determine to make this the same height as my overhead doors. There's no limits, you can keep splitting that as many times as you need to come up with a design that best suits your project. Best of all, this can be done either on the fly, in a job, or you can save a door like I'm doing here in the door library for future use. I can click in each one of these sections and determine what I'd like that section to be. So I could drop that down and say this section needs to be glass, and this section needs to be glass. So let's change the rules for each of these top sections. Let's take a look at that now. Let's go ahead and reset this door, and I'll change the overall size back down to a standard height. Now let's take a look at changing the shape of the middle section. Let's click back in the middle opening here and change this to be a pocket again. I'm then going to right click and choose Select Special Mullions. Let's change that to a double bow. I'm going to leave the input of the mullion width to be half the size of my rails. You can change that to whatever you like. Let's take a look at that in 3D. Let's quickly run through the various different auto shapes. So you can see you've got a various control of left and right hand bows, double bows right through to quad and split bows. And that's going to give you various different parametric door designs. Let's take a look at the X diagonal. This one's becoming increasingly popular. In this case, I'm going to set my mullion width to be the same as my external border. And that will give you a nice X-shaped pattern on your shaker profile, commonly seen on the end of island units. Then you have the option for diagonal left and diagonal right, perhaps if you're making them as separate panels. If there currently isn't a shape in Mozaik that's suitable, you can right click and choose Edit Shape and then use the Shape Editor to create your own custom shapes. You can modify the existing shape or simply add a shape or a toolpath to add on top of the current cutout that's there. So I might choose to add a toolpath, and let's have a look at an open toolpath. And I only need 2 points on this toolpath, so I'm going to delete point 3 and 4. Let's say I then take point 1 here and bring it down to that starting point there, and I'll take point 2 and lock it to the top right hand corner there. In actual case, I want my point 1 to start at 0, and I want my point 2 to go the entire length of the door. In this case, I'm going to give that a simple formula and tell it to go the part length and press OK. I can then replicate that for the opposite side. First, I'm going to give that a depth. Let's say I go 1.5mm deep, and I'll select a tool. Let's say I use my 90-degree V cutter, and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to copy the toolpath, and on that toolpath, I'm going to go to the Y value. I'm going to change that to 50, and this to 50. Press OK, and now I've created a pocket, shaker door pocket, but with a V cutter running all the way across. The options are fairly endless because you can use those combinations to create various types of door designs. Of course, it doesn't have to be a shaker style door. You might want to just add in a standard slab door and do the same thing. So I could go to a straight slab pattern, click add. Let's just call this slab door. And on this one, I'm going to use the edit function. Take me back into this part editor here. I'll go to my operations, and I can add in any various types of operations I like to create a new style. So perhaps I might want to add an open toolpath. That toolpath might be a line that's horizontally going across the panel like that. It might be a series of vertical lines applied as beading. So you can really delete out whichever lines you want. You don't need as many points. Let's say in this case, I'm going to use an example of running roughly from that point to that point. Okay, so I'm going to run a series of horizontal lines. So let's say that we're starting in X at the part's length, minus off 10mm, and I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to do the same to this point. And I'm going to make sure that starts up by the part's width. And this one can start down at 0. Okay, I'm going to make that again 1.5mm deep. And I'm going to select my 90-degree sharp corner tool. I'm then going to copy this. I'm then going to go to my X value. Let's say I go minus 20 this time. And then I could repeat that 3 or 4 times to give me a profile with various lines running horizontally across the door. And if we take a look at that, so that's a slab door with horizontal lines going across the door. You could do the same thing on a vertical, or perhaps even an angle, if you're able to refer back to your Pythagoras theorem days in high school. Back on the routed door tab, you can create other types of inserts. They don't need to be pockets. Perhaps you could link an image, and an example here that I'll bring up is one that I use to create a rattan style door. So in the pocket, I've simply selected an image and picked a rattan texture in the image there. And that's then going to give you a 3D view of that type of door style. You can link all sorts of things. You can even use SketchUp models. So you can use a SketchUp model, and Mozaik has a great option there of a great example of a wrought iron door in that style. To learn more about this area of Mozaik, you can click the question mark in the top right hand corner. This will open up a PDF and it will show you all the various options that you can run through. This is a 15-page PDF that goes through all the different styles of doors and the different patterns, profiles and options that you have available for the way that you want to build these styles of doors. All the information is available at your fingertips for you to completely change the way you build MDF doors. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe and follow along. This is Dave from Cadmate. Thanks for watching.